All right. I think John might. He said he might hop in too for a little bit.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah. So any ideas?
You're Luke.
I'm Luke. You're Pete.
Are you Lukey?
Yeah, I'm Lukey.
You're Lukey, and then there's Luke Thompson, who's Luke.
Yes. OG.
You're the one with the
OG
farm.
Luke.
Oh,
and
Abigail's
Luke
here.
2.0.
It's a party. These random things are starting to get better and better. I need to figure out that live stream thing at some point. But
This is
hey,
great.
Abigail.
Hi, Abigail.
You know, Luke, this is Pete, whichever you want to call him, I guess.
Whatever you want to call me, Peter.
Whatever.
Don't mind me over here, just grilling up the bagel because I'm hungry.
Did you say grilling?
Grilling, yeah. You ever grill a bagel?
I like on a charcoal grill.
No, grilling, like grilling with butter. Is this a dialectical thing? Like a dialect thing? Like
Charbroil.
is this a vocabulary? A regional.
I like how your mind went to charcoal grill.
So what do you call cooking something with butter on a stovetop like pan?
Like a pan-seared bagel.
Is that what you'd call it?
Seared bagel.
I call it a grilled bagel, grilled with butter.
I
don't know what I'd call it. This is amazing. I love this.
I wouldn't call it grilling. Like that wouldn't be the first thing.
So how are you doing, Abigail?
Good. Just a sad movie, so I'm happy to be distracted.
You watched a sad movie, or you were sad moving?
Oh no, I watched a sad movie.
Oh.
Had a sad ending, and I don't like that.
Oh, what was it?
Yeah.
Oh, it was about like Elizabeth Bishop and what is it called? Reach for the Moon or something like that.
What, you want to spoil it for me?
Oh, it's just that the people who are in love fall out of love, and it's depressing.
It's John Bell, the elusive John Bell, Dr. John Bell.
Yeah.
Now, forgot. He got his whatever you call it, whatchamacallit from school.
Dizzle.
Hey, John.
Hey, good evening, everybody. What's up, Luke?
Hi, John.
Long time no see, man.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you
Congratulations on that PH Dizzle.
Thanks. Thank you much. It was a long time coming. Glad to be done.
You've met Abigail, right?
No.
Okay. This is my cousin John.
Oh, nice to meet you. North Face.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice.
I used to work at the North Face.
Did you?
Yeah, it was just a retail store.
Was that when you were in Washington? That seems like a Washington thing, not a Michigan
No,
thing.
but I worked for Vans skate shoes. I was like a retail supervisor at a Vans store, which is owned by VF Corporation, which also owns North Face. So I transferred actually from Vans to North Face.
Well, you look the part. You look outdoorsy enough.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I met my wife too. She was my coworker.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So don't let me interrupt.
So we didn't really start anything yet. I just hit record because I was really interested with Peter's new iPad that follows him around everywhere.
Oh yeah,
it's really cool.
The AI in this thing.
Wait, what?
How weird.
Isn't that cool?
It's not really an iPad following him though.
No, that's what he said. He said it was a new iPad, and it the camera follows him around.
Oh, the camera.
Peter has an entire film crew in his kitchen, just like.
How to grill the bagel.
Yeah, he's grilling a bagel right now.
That bagel's got a life of its own.
The film crew's for the bagel, actually.
Oh my gosh.
Where's Peter? Where is he? Can't find him.
Do you guys have any topics tonight? Tonight's a full moon. That's one thing.
Oh,
I don't know what that means.
Spooky.
What is more complicated?
Yeah, the moon looks really nice.
What is more complicated to produce or bake? A bagel or a donut?
To create like from scratch?
Yeah, like how early do you have to wake up earlier for one over the other? I just know bakers have to wake up like really early.
I think bagels, you need the sourdough going, that kind of stuff, which whatever that takes. And then bagels, I think it's probably simple actually. Pretty simple dough mixture. So you can just deep fry. Make like those classic. I've never done it, but from my very limited expertise.
That
So
was
John
the icebreaker.
John Bell
Yeah.
and Abigail. Nice to meet you, Abigail.
Yep. I'm in
How are you?
your
What's the
signal
connection?
chat, Peter. I just don't really ever say anything.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yep.
Yeah, I've taken that over.
Yeah, you kind of have.
For-
That's okay.
I force everybody to have conversations that they don't want to have.
I've really enjoyed your presence.
Thanks. I'm glad you like it. I've enjoyed being on there too. I'm learning a lot for sure.
Yeah.
Is that? Oh, that's a cat. I didn't know if that was Ember at first.
Kitty.
This is Bones.
Bones?
Bones.
Nice.
Luke, I
Cool.
liked
And-
the story that you shared today about your church out in Washington.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
Sounded pretty crazy.
so John,
Yeah,
you're
it
not
was-
participating, but you're listening.
Yeah, I catch up. I listen.
It's just
Oh,
creeping.
nice.
I just kind of lurk.
Yeah.
Nice.
I love that. I love that because it's like you might know so many things now about me.
Well,
Oh,
you know
but
what?
I'm not even aware that
I'd really like to put a face to everybody that's in the chat because it's a lot of mysteries. There was a Luke, and then there's a Lukey, and then there's a Mitch, and then there's a Jason. Obviously, I've met Jason kind of over Zoom, and then Cal's interacted over Zoom. This is my first time seeing Luke in the flesh. And John, apparently you've been there, lurking in the background.
Yep. Most of the time, honestly, I don't know if you guys have ever felt like this, but like Luke said, I was finishing a PhD, and most of the time I've actually felt like my brain is at capacity. And so I feel like I can't really think about anything else very hard. That's kind of how it's been for me for the past couple of months. I don't know if you've ever felt that way, just like brain fatigue, or it's just full, like the tank is full.
yeah.
Luke, this is
Definitely.
off topic, but I'm thinking maybe you could call it a griddled bagel. Would that make sense? A griddled bagel?
When I think of a griddle, that's the kind of hot plate that would leave lines in the bottom of.
But I'm thinking
whatever it is.
of like a McGriddle, McGriddles. That's food.
But a McGriddle has syrup.
That's
on
what
the
I'm saying.
inside
It's
of
cooked up. Does that mean it's cooked on a griddle, or does that mean there's something griddle about it?
I think it's because you make eggs on a griddle to make them flat like that.
What's
I think it's the
difference?
cooking method.
Hello.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Here comes my wife.
Oh.
I'd like
Hello.
to say hello.
Jason, are you able to see the full moon?
Random people from all over the state.
I can't see it from here, actually.
That's Jason. You listened to him
Hi.
on the podcast. He
It's
was the
me.
first episode.
Hey,
Oh, you can't hear you because I have headphones in.
I like how the camera's like automatically zooming
I
in
know
on there
it,
too.
it knows.
Just
Recognize the face.
What is this?
oh man,
Anyway,
it's gonna follow you into the bathroom. Be careful.
yeah, no, it goes around corners.
Yeah.
It levitates and follows me on a swivel or something. So these new iPads.
You wake up and
Look at that.
you wake up and it's watching you
It even
sleep or
zooms in on
something.
me. It's creepy.
Hey, is this the conversation that we were gonna have about dogs and cats?
Oh, we could do that right now since you got a cat on you. So
Let's do it.
Abigail, we had planned to talk about at some point, basically dogs and cats. I guess just the symbolism or the benefits and downfalls of dogs and cats. Because there's cat people and dog people, and so there's a great divide.
Cats.
Cats, you're a cat person,
Cats.
not me.
Well,
I
I
don't
tell-
dislike them, but go ahead.
can I tell my story with I grew up with a sister who was like deathly allergic to almost everything in the world.
Mm.
But cats and dogs were we could not have them in our house due to the dander. I did have a hamster which had dander, but animal dander in general. So if it had skin and fur, we couldn't have it in the house. I could have lizards. Wasn't allowed to have snakes because Satan. And
Satan, is that what you said?
yeah, and,
Yeah, the usual.
and but I had all sorts of other things, like anything from like a newt, fiddler crab, love tropical fish, bearded, like just tons of different animals growing up. My room was full of terrariums and glowed. In fact, I remember when one of my anoles escaped and I had to sleep with my door closed because I slept with my door open every single night. It's comfort there. But all that to say is when I moved away to Washington when I was 18, I immediately got my first cat and then ended up with 3 cats within 3 years. And then when I left Spokane, I had tried to rehouse these cats because it was like, what was I gonna do? Bring them with me on a string? Like
On a string?
I know, or like in my little Honda Civic, and then like at a rest stop, just like
Do
allow
they
them
do
to
they
go.
float? Like, why are they on a string here?
That was my question.
My thought was being at a rest stop and having them like
Like on a
Oh,
leash.
okay, I see.
String made me think of balloon too, Jason.
Yeah, sorry. Go
But-
ahead. This is a serious story. Yeah.
Yeah, I ended up leaving one, which was kind of like a feral cat that I would allow inside, and his name was Jason.
Are you serious? Are you messing?
I'm not kidding, and I can show you pictures of him.
Please do.
Honestly, the most majestic cat.
Of course he is.
Yeah, but it had the cat had like dreadlocks and stuff, and it also had ringworm, and
He would.
and I allowed the cat, like the cat would come in and out of the house, but also I knew that it was getting cuddles and love elsewhere. And I'm saying that to preface the reasoning why I ended up leaving that cat at the residence that I left. Like it was on the porch when I left to drive back to Michigan with, and I was just trusting that like this cat would be all right. So I guess I'm an animal abandoner.
No, it's all right. He's a
Uh,
Jason. He'll make it.
Yeah, it's like
he's got all
they're
all
tough.
the qualities of Jason. You know, dreadlocks,
There's a sermon
Majestic
illustration in there.
ringworm, ringworm,
yeah.
and then
There's a
goes
sermon
and gets
illustration
love.
in there somewhere. Who knows?
I think so. Man,
Cats are. I'm sure he'd find someone to go.
Question: Do you guys have Polar Seltzer? You do?
And I've seen that before. Yeah. I don't
know where
think I've
it's
ever bought
produced?
it, but no. Where's it?
Right down the street from me
Really?
in Worcester, Mass. Yep,
Oh,
that's where they make
That's
it. I
cool.
get it fresh from the factory. Good stuff. 10 out of 10 recommend.
so do you still feel bad about that or something, Luke? Or do you?
gosh, yeah, I think about it all the time.
That's really
But-
sad.
I rehoused the other 2. One of my cats had a cleft palate, and there was a hole in the stairwell at the top of the stairwell, and the cat that had a cleft palate, that was so I had Jason, Lil Tyson, and Lil Topher, and those were-
Sorry, it's
those
hard for me not to laugh. I mean, these are It's great.
And little Tyson, he fell into the stairwell, and so he was stuck inside the drywall in this empty area, but it was like sealed. He wasn't going to be able to find that hole up at the top of the steps, which I don't know how that hole got there. We abused that apartment. I did not get my damage deposit back. In fact, I almost burnt down the entire backyard. Literally the day before I left Spokane, I had like 3 fire trucks and several like fire marshals in my backyard. And at least a third of the backyard was black charred. Anyways, that's a whole nother story. I ended up taking a pipe wrench and smashing in the wall to get my cat out of that stairwell.
You're a hero.
But like when you I'm glad it was just like a really poorly constructed duplex. But yeah, I don't know how I got away with some. So this is just confession. This is just confession.
Confessional. I know, I'm not sure where to go with that.
Abigail, I really like your blackout poetry. Even just that concept. I watching that stream, was it with Grail Country?
Yeah.
That was cool, and it made me want to do that. The reason why it was so cool was because you were doing it with those books
Mhm.
that you otherwise had. What was it like? They were the books that informed your conscious as a young person in potentially the wrong direction, or I don't know how you'd say
Yeah,
it.
they're just like there's some good stuff and there's some really bad stuff, and like there's one on modesty that I have that's just and I did that whole one, and it's really amazing. Like I love this now because it's super easy to do. It's not like intimidating. Anybody can do it, and it really shows how you don't have to just take whatever people say. Like, and it also illuminates, I think, how anything that we hear, you always filter it in some way and choose what to listen to and what resonates with you and stuff. And like that's legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really satisfying to subvert.
So what is it? I think I missed that part of the conversation. I
So
was like
there's
working while it was going on.
yeah, I started doing, because my sister was doing it, I started doing like blackout poetry.
What is that
And
exactly?
so it's like you take the page or whatever, and then just like take a selection of it,
Oh, okay.
black out the rest, or I call it highlight poetry sometimes. But yeah, like there's one about, I mean, this book has some stuff in it that's like, if this gives you a low, horrible opinion of yourself, it's from God. Anything that makes you like yourself is from the devil, and and stuff like that. So I just,
And that's Tozer.
yeah, that's Tozer.
I've heard the name. I haven't read any of his stuff.
You
Well,
know, it's like Protestant mysticism. It's very interesting.
yeah, The Pursuit of God. I know I had. I forget which ones are. There's 2 really famous Tozer books, and I think I have both of them still on my shelf.
Huh.
Maybe I'll have to destroy them with a Sharpie.
You should. It's really satisfying because I get intimidated like by other people's perspectives, and especially people with like authority and influence. But usually, well, I think always what I make out of it, it certainly is better for me than whatever he was coming up with originally. It's very,
I need to backtrack to what you just said. Like, I resonate with that so much. Like that intimidation.
oh yeah.
I mean, like that, I would say that comparison that I might have, I guess one of my own personality faults in general is comparison to anybody else,
Mhm.
constantly
Oh,
analyzing myself, not from an introspective place, but like externalizing, like who, like taking on everybody else's opinion. Like it's like I could be pretty confident and say something and think that like I know it, and then somebody will counter what I say, and
Uh,
and if I have any sort of like respect for that person or reverence for that person, which pretty much, because I have such low reverence for myself, it's like that's anybody, and I will just like shrink, you know, and be like, okay, like yeah, they're most likely right, and I'm just I'm there's there's no way that I could be correct, or that what I think is, even if I'm following my intuition. So um, yeah, that's just really interesting. You said
yeah, what helps me a lot with that is realizing more and more that I can decide what like I believe for myself, and I don't have to be universally right, but because I mean, even like in some things, it's definitely personal, like your favorite food or like which people you like and want to hang out with. That you don't have to be like right about that. It's just it's what works for you, and expanding that sphere of stuff that I just have to figure out for myself. And if other people agree, then great, has helped a lot. Because then I'm like, I only have to worry about my opinion, but
Mhm.
also not to let another person tell me what is right for me. Because they don't know. And even if people are saying stuff that is like true, it's almost always from a different perspective, and then it could sound wrong
Yeah,
in your own words.
yeah.
Well,
I like that, because like at some point I did reach a boiling point where I was just like, here I am, just like you know, taking the advice of all these other people, right?
yeah.
Or basically allowing them to inform me, and basically alter who I am, and specifically like my emotional state, all that stuff. And like I'm just following their whim, you know? And and I remember like at whatever point it was where I realized that like that human fallibility was just like across the board, you know? So it was just like we're really just all on this
I haven't
even.
realized that one yet.
Yeah, I think I'm still sort of wrestling with it. But when it was like, but it was just like, okay, I can't trust anybody. There's no, there's not a single, there's not a single voice out there, and I don't care who it is. Like, unless, and it really came to this epistemic, like this point, like, unless the person that I'm going to trust is going to be the person that's like gone to the other side and seen the other side, and like, um, because like the epistemic limit in my head is death. And so it's like, and then that was like revelatory to me, because it was like, okay, who do I know that's died and seen the other side and actually come back to inform me of what that is, you know? And it was like, okay, that's Jesus. And so it was like, okay, who holds epistemic authority in my head? It's like the one who's encountered death and defeated it. And like, I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense.
I guess I ignore some stuff. I probably ignore some stuff that Jesus said too. But yeah, but there are certain there's like one person I trust. Like,
Yeah, one person. I'm curious who that would be.
I'm not gonna.
Secret.
They probably don't know who they are.
I'd probably need to be initiated to know anyways.
I think you could only trust somebody that like you can trust them with yourself completely, because everybody, yeah, like everyone has their own world and perspective and heart and like, yeah, like the cliche that like what works for one person doesn't work for another person and stuff like that.
Sure. That's certainly true.
And I don't like at all in like religion if people use that to bully it or like to use authority in that way of authoritatively imposing a like a certain view.
Coercion is the word.
Coercion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that has like such a weight, even though pretty much every Christian or even Christian priest or minister or whatever is different, and they're just as much a person with their individual. I mean, look at Pierre Teilhard de Chardin versus like, I don't know, Tozer. It's a wide range, always.
Yeah. That is certainly true. So where are we headed?
Death, the epistemic limit.
Well,
yeah, we're approaching it.
I guess let's start with the Bible. Is there any mention of cats in the Bible?
Cat.
Is there?
Were they a
I know
thing?
there's a lot of dogs, that's for sure, out in hell.
What about the Sphinx?
Peter's a cat
Oh.
person.
Lion.
Thanks.
Yeah, why are cats
Um,
worshipped more often? Or are they?
Cats were definitely an item of idolatry for sure in the ancient world.
Is Norse mythology, do they worship dogs more maybe? Like wolves or something maybe? I don't know I can't think of many scenarios where dogs are actually worshipped. They are usually kind of the scum.
You know what? Where this could go is more metaphorically, and we could talk about what are some characteristics of dogs and characteristics of cats, and how do those correlate with what would you call works of the spirit versus works of the flesh? You know, fruit of the spirit versus fruit of the flesh. Which one is more spiritual, a dog or a cat?
Cat. Freedom.
You're
You
biased.
know, the only I'll be honest
Just kidding.
and say I recognize my bias as a cat person, but from a good starting point, I will recognize this one weakness with cats is their individualism. That doesn't really track with the spirit. The spirit's very communal. Cats aren't very communal. Well, at least maybe they are in the wild. I mean, they are in the wild, right? Big cats. Domestic cats, we've kind of forced them to be our slaves, so
Yeah,
I have no choice.
there's cats in the Bible right there. The Lion of Judah. There you go. We worship a cat.
Strike one. One per
Dang
cat.
it.
Can we get a scoreboard? You do one of those
The
drawing
scoreboard.
things.
Oh, how do we? John, you can do this. You have the paint, the power of paint.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
The
Oh
scoreboard.
my. I'm really excited to see this. The last picture I saw John paint was on Microsoft Paint, was it? I don't know.
I think I've only ever done that once.
I think so. Oh, you should. The triangle thing was pretty cool too. When you did the what were we doing with the shape conversation?
We were just talking about if you were a demon, what sort of a shape would you not want to be trapped in?
Yeah, because supposedly when you can summon spirits, if you summon them into a triangle, it like you can get them to do your bidding easier or something like that. And I was thinking, I don't want to be trapped in a triangle. I'd much rather be in a square, or a circle would be nice.
I agree.
That's really interesting. So that resonates with like the idea that like ghosts can't hide in a house with rounded corners.
What?
So like
I didn't know this.
I didn't know that either. Really?
We're taking a turn away from cats right now. This
That's
is
fine.
pretty interesting.
well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's I mean, when I think of cats, I
So
think
you
of
want?
like,
Sorry, go ahead.
there's something ghostly about cats. maybe it's just because I've seen a lot of mangy ones that are like skin and bones or approaching their death. But that's also because, like, okay, so we take care of feral cats. That was like the first. I should say, uh, man, I'm skipping around. Sorry, the ADHD is just all over the place. But when we moved into this house, there was these ladies, Cheryl. She owns Cheryl's Ferals feeds ferals in my neighborhood.
I'm sorry. This is so hard. I'm not even being serious, but like the cat named Jason, Cheryl's Ferals, the hamster dander. Like, what's happening? The hamster dander might be my favorite part right now. I don't know why.
But these cats, they were being fed by Maggie, my neighbor. Maggie and Dante, they live behind me. They took care of the ferals. But then they moved, and so then the Cheryl asked if I would be willing to take the cats into my garage, and she has like these boxes that she puts straw in, and then I had like 6 of them stacked up in my garage for like 2 years, and I would help them by feeding them twice a week, and then they'd be feeding them on all the off days, and they would pay for the food, and all I had to do was go out there and feed them and make sure they had water. And yeah, there was like 6 of them at that time living in my garage. And then I wanted to turn my garage into a workshop a few months ago, and I told him, I was like, I'm buttoning this whole thing up, like putting a garage door on. I am willing to build like a makeshift shelter out here for them. And so I did that, and they were pretty upset about it. But I was like, dude, this is my garage. But also, really, is it? Yeah, it's been there way longer than I have. So I don't know. When I think about all of it, I'm completely torn and perplexed. But I did. I just went with my gut, kicked them out. But they've been kicked out their whole life. Cats are not related to ghosts, but the idea that a demon can be trapped inside a triangle just like made sense to me, and I felt like it related to the geometry of the rigid geometry of a corner versus like the smooth that, can I still call that geometry? The round over of a house without corners. So like supposedly if you have rounded all the edges in your house, or the contours in your house, ghosts can't hide there. At least that's what I've heard my whole life.
That's interesting.
Would a cat enjoy a roundhouse?
Yeah.
Probably not as much.
I feel like they like little dark corners to hide in. Kind of like ghosts. It's weird.
If you trap a ghost in a cat, like the swine, like the they were drowned.
Trap a ghost in a cat?
Could
So
you?
if you cast out a
That might happen.
demon from a person, you can put it in an animal. And
In a
if the
cat?
if the cat's close by,
I think the cat would just absorb it. You would notice no difference in the cat.
I completely agree.
Probably. Probably. All right,
Yeah.
so
All right, so I was just doing a little research, and just like have my Bible app, just typed in cats, and guess what? Nothing came up. At least in the ESV version, there's no mention of cats. But then I typed in lions. So there's a lot on lions. Let's start in Genesis.
we're gonna go
Genesis
through.
49:9. Judah is a lion's cub. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. He stoops down. Judah is my lion's cub. I think there's another point for cats. You know,
Just because they're in the Bible? Well, yeah, it's not a bad thing.
no, Judah. Judah has a good connotation. That's the tribe of Judah. That's where Jesus comes from, right?
Mhm.
Lions?
In Proverbs, it says they're mighty among beasts. I think they're kind of like like top of the food chain. So I think they're like
Yeah.
a devouring beast. Like I think the doesn't the King of Babylon also get referred to as a lion? I think like the lion's gonna come and destroy Judah or something like that. It's kind of like the
Aslan.
King of
Oh.
Kings. Aslan, yeah.
Keep
I
going.
don't know. I don't have a whole lot to say about cats. I don't know. I owned one when I was little, but I didn't. It was kind of an outside cat, and then he killed. I think it was my grandma's cat. I think it was Nan's cat. Then he left, and that's all. That's my experience of him. My mom has a cat, but I don't know. It's nice. She kind of keeps to herself.
Listen to this quote. This is something else. 2 Samuel 17:10.
Let's hear it.
Then even the valiant man whose heart is like the heart of a lion will utterly melt. Wow. Hearts, cats are prideful. I'll give that to dogs. Cats are prideful. And
Okay,
their hearts need to be melted.
they literally call what is it? A lion?
Cats meow? No, I don't know.
No, a pride. A pride of
Oh yeah,
lion.
you're right. You're not
So, like,
wrong.
That I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about Leos and like the astrological sign, which is associated with pride and arrogance and whatever, almost like a machismo sort of. I'm a Leo, so I don't know.
Yeah,
Are
so am
you?
I.
What?
Are you? Yeah.
Yeah,
Are you July? Are you late July or early August?
early August.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's wild. My son, who's named Sonny, he's a Leo too. Which is then I'm like, okay, then also there's like the pride, the sun. Also, do lions remind you of the sun? They definitely remind me of the sun.
Yeah, the mane, the
Yeah.
shape. Yeah, the color.
Yeah, sure. I'll give you that. The shape.
Lions are like
also-
the sun, and cats are like ghosts. Like little house cats are like ghosts, demons.
Yeah, I was gonna say lions are more of used as more of a masculine imagery, and then the cats are like the feminine, so it's weird.
Yeah,
They're both cats.
that's true. Even though I will say, even in a lion's pride, which I believe is led by the male, female is the notorious hunter.
Yeah, so the cliche isn't really, it's just like the symbolism of it. There was this funny meme that I saw that was like poking fun at the like alpha male people who will use lions and wolves as examples of the alpha male. They were like, in reality, we should do them biologically accurate. And they show this picture of this wolf, and he's like, I have to live in a group with all my friends or else it will get sad. And the lion one was like, I love and support my friends so much.
That's awesome. Oh,
So what is the purpose of a house cat? Is it just companionship? Because you can't put them to work.
That is a good question.
Like dogs, you can put to work.
oh,
There
you
was
can
some
put
great- 'cause
cats
it-
to work.
Really, you can't?
Oh my gosh. Well, you don't control them, but they eat the for me.
I
The
personally
mouse-
love.
Oh, they eat mice. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Why didn't I think of that?
But
That's
how
really
much?
good.
But how much of that is actually putting it to work, though?
You're right.
But that's a use for 'em.
know?
Like that's why you would have one to keep the what is it?
It's a
Yeah,
preventative measure.
The creeping things.
I will
out
tell
of
you,
your
last
house.
spring I got broken into by mice. They broke into my kitchen and my cat killed one. It was the first time she had ever killed anything. She's a pretty domesticated cat. I
What
was
was
really
it?
impressed with her. It
A
was a mouse.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good.
Came up
Like,
through my garage, underneath my kitchen, like behind my stove. So I had to pull the stove out, put some spray foam in there, like some
Yeah.
wire. What's that wire? So steel wire stuff, whatever it's called. Steel wool.
Laugh.
And when I lived in Fall River, which was a really crappy city, I had a really crappy apartment. My cat also protected us from mice break-ins there. So my cat's been pretty good and loyal, and she's super cuddly. And I finally figured out the litter box situation. That's the hardest part. Cats can be really picky about their litter boxes. Oh my goodness. Has to be a certain way where they pee on the floor.
Oh my
Do
god.
they? Is that vindictive? I've heard they can be vindictive in that. Like they can get
Yeah.
mad
So
at you.
I'm vindictive back, and I spray the whole area with like a ton of bleach and like peppermint spray, and just we get at each other. It's a playful but relationship, you know.
I think you became the mouse in that scenario, playing cat and mouse.
We totally are, and she plays me. She communicates as well. She goes meow, meow, and like tries to get me to go downstairs and feed her. She like stands there. She's like this. Give me the reaction. She's like she'll run out. She'll like then I come follow her and she runs alongside me. Like we walk downstairs. Like okay, I'll give you a scoop of food. She runs the
So
roost. She knows how to. She communicates really well though. For cat, she's a very social cat.
All
She
right,
loves to
so
cuddle.
that all seems nice, but Jason, you asked like, what is the purpose of a cat companionship? And I feel like if
I
you're
just told you.
comparing the companionship between a dog and a cat, there's no contest.
That's how I feel, but
That's how
I'm
I
a
feel
dog
too.
person. I'm a little biased, so
Well,
the
the
man's
dog-
best friend.
let's look at the facts, right?
I'm gonna
Well,
change
Jason
that.
is a widower. Jason's a widower of a dog wife, so
Yeah,
have
my dog was
soft.
not good at catching mice. I did pull out my Evan one time. I pulled out the drawer and there was a mouse like on the ledge of it, the bottom drawer, and just this little mouse was sitting there, and my dog was laying there, and Verona's face, it just went like right in front of her. And then she like there was this, that split second where they both are so freaked out they don't know what to do. So they're just
Yep.
looking at each other like this close, and then all of a sudden she just tried to get it and it took off. But there was a time she did eat a chocolate mouse up at Uncle Mark's cabin because a mouse got into his hot chocolate. And so we opened it up.
I remember that.
Yeah, she ate that chocolate mouse.
Hey,
Probably
what-
wasn't very good for her.
Probably not. Chocolate's not good for dogs, but whatever. It's a cool trick. I
So
like that, Luke.
there was one time, uh, my family used to go down to Florida for vacation every year. That was kind of like the thing we did to go visit family. I'm originally from South Carolina, and there was one time we were coming back, and I was probably like 12 or 13. We were coming back and we had cats in the house, and we always had our neighbor come over like every other day and feed them and stuff. And they'd go outside and do their thing. And it was my birthday. I think I was probably 13. And we pulled up, and I remember running inside the house and looking for the cat because we had a mom cat and like 6 kittens at the time, and looking for them, and they were nowhere to be found. And so I was kind of walking back to my room, and I found the arm of a cat just like laying in the hallway, like a little kitten's arm. And then as we walked around the house, yeah, this is real. As we walked around the house, we found little appendages everywhere. And the mom had snapped and had murdered all of her babies and kind of dismembered them and spread their parts evenly around the area that she lived. So they eat their own, man. Cats are kind of crazy. For that reason, I'm throwing my hat in the ring for dogs.
I'll admit that's a big L. That's a big L for cats.
Pretty tough.
Yeah.
Was it,
Do you-
spread its parts around the house? Like were they to circle? How creepy would that have been?
I recall my parents telling me, they must have looked it up or something, saying that that's like when cats feel threatened, they can like eat their own to prevent them from dying in a way they don't want them to, or something like that. I don't really know.
Oh.
That's really interesting because I sense that cats, I guess, don't really keep a record of right or wrong. There's not really. I don't know if they operate within a binary of good and evil, but
Huh.
dogs definitely do. Like dogs are pretty judgmental.
Are they? I would have felt like the opposite. I guess it goes both ways. But
Well, I mean, they can be super loyal, and if they know you, but like for instance, I didn't have a relationship with the dog for a long time, and I had some weird interactions with dogs, and for a long time there too, when you know, like I wondered too if like the dog, I felt like a dog, like dogs could, like I remember one dog, and I remember being in like college, and it felt like, well, I did get attacked by a German Shepherd at a wedding. So like there's a lot of little anecdotes in here I could tell you. But there's that dog, I felt like the dog could see my soul and see like I like maybe even like evaluate who I was as a person and maybe understand that my heart at certain times in my at that specific time in my life was just not pure, you know. And like I felt like that dog knew every secret I had, and um yeah, and it didn't like me.
That's interesting. Yeah, I can't see a cat doing that really. A cat would probably like you more.
Yeah, a cat just wouldn't differentiate.
Yeah.
You could be the worst person in the world. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, I will
Yeah, I
admit,
think you're right.
cats are rather hedonistic. I'd venture to say, whereas dogs tend to be more communal, collectivist, and loyal. They seem to have more virtue to them. I'll admit that. Um, but I'd say like intellectually, dogs are really dumb, in my opinion. I think a lot of them are like really pretty. I always think of them like autistic children for some reason. Like they just come up and like touch you inappropriately. They sniff your crotch and like just do like socially inappropriate stuff they're just not supposed to. But my pet peeve is when a dog comes in and sniffs my crotch. Hate that. They don't know. They don't know
That's a
my
lot to
social
unpack.
bubble.
That's what, John?
I said that's a lot to unpack. There's a lot there.
Yeah. Yep, that's true.
First off, I hate to say it, but if your crotch wasn't smelling like something, they probably wouldn't sniff it all the time.
That's true.
I think I agree with you though, Luke. It seems like dogs definitely work more in a binary of good and evil, and cats act purely out of self-preservation. There are very few animals that I actually think can probably assess right and wrong, but dogs are one of them. I don't know that much about animals. I know there's some really smart ones out there. Like I know octopi and squid are incredibly smart.
Yeah.
Monkeys.
Yeah, it's hard for me
Yeah.
to say how smart cats are because and maybe they're too smart or something because I don't think you can really train them. I guess you could. You can to some degree, but not quite like a dog, I guess.
No, I think it's all self-preservation. Like you'll have a really nice cat if you have set up a world that's nice for the cat, right? It'll use the litter box if it's in a way that it likes. It'll respond well if you've given it a home, and then once it decides it doesn't like you and you're not the best fit for it, it'll turn on you and become super mean towards you, right?
Rip apart your children, spread them throughout the house.
It'll rip apart its own children. Yeah. That doesn't scream like that it has any inclination of right and wrong to me.
Yeah. Yeah, to be fair, I mean dogs aren't always the best parents or whatever, with their puppies either. But I think it's just usually most scenarios it might just often be the runt that they're mean to, and they usually take care of the rest of them. But for some reason it seems like there's usually in the litter there's one puppy that the mother doesn't like for some reason. I don't know why. Which is really kind of sad, but it tends to happen. But I'm with you. I don't know. I do think they can assess I guess good and evil more. So that's interesting.
Jason, you said I remember you would say you had a few times where you'd be out walking late at night and you'd get like a weird feeling or something. You would just have a strange sensation or a feeling that you were in danger. You had a couple of those.
Well, one time I think I saw the Dark Man, which was really freaking
Was
creepy.
Verona ever with you on those? Also, I'd like to hear more about that. But was she?
Yeah, she was with me when I think I saw the Dark Man. I don't know what
Did
the heck.
she react in a way
No.
where she perceived that same thing that you were feeling?
Oh, when I just like sense stuff?
Yeah.
I don't really know. There were only a few times like that. I think the one this sounds so weird. The one time when I saw the UFO, they didn't see it, of course. Yeah. So that didn't bother him. But then
Okay.
that time really freaked me out. And then Yeah, I don't know about the other times, but the one time where I think I saw that. I mean, I don't know what it was. Probably just a guy, but all I can remember is he was just very like dark. I don't even know if he was wearing dark clothes. Like that's just all I remember is like all I can remember at this point was like if someone was just like kind of almost all in black or something, just this very dark presence. But I remember I was jogging. It was when I would run with her, and I went to run at night, and we were running back, and literally what freaked me out because I would kind of look at my feet anyway when I was running. I don't know why, I just watched where I was going, and she was in front of me a little bit, and then the weirdest part was she didn't even see the guy. Like I literally did not see the guy until he was probably maybe 5 feet in front of me, and then all of a sudden I just like jerked back because I almost ran into him, and then she freaked out too because she didn't see him either till he was just like all of a sudden there. It was that was the weirdest part is that she didn't even see him, and then she just kind of like I think was so freaked out as well that she didn't. I mean, she was never like a aggressive dog anyway. She probably would have ran behind me and hid if she was that scared. And then this guy, like, he didn't say a word to me at all. Like, just slowly just walked by me. And then I didn't even turn around. I just kept running. I was like, this is the creepiest thing ever.
You probably
I was
ran
like,
a little
sorry.
bit faster.
Yeah, I said something to him because I was like, sorry, man, or something like that. And he just like, I think he just looked me right in the eyes, but didn't say a word and just slowly walked on by. And then I was just like, oh my God, this guy's gonna murder me.
Do you think there was something spiritual about him, like a spiritual being, or do you think it was just a man?
That's why I wonder if it was the dark man. Like the dark man's like a thing. It's like this figure,
Dark man.
this encounter people have with like that's just what they call him. It's like a at different times in
I've
their
never
lives.
heard
And
this.
I've heard they actually a lot of times people encounter him on a road or like at a crossroads or something like that. So it's just even stranger that he was in the middle of the road and I ran into him. But
Oh,
I
in the
mean, it
middle of
could,
the road?
no, well, it was like I was on the shoulder of the road because I was running kind of along the side of a highway, not a very busy highway, and it was at night. Yeah, but I mean, it was like dark out. It was just really strange, and I mean, where I lived, I mean, it was there's a extremely small population, so it's just kind of weird. I don't know, but it could have just been a guy, but it's just weird that it's just walking down the road in the middle of the night. I don't know. But yeah, so that and there was when I first bought my house, she would bark at this one corner in the wall where I was like, stop it. I know there's a ghost. He's in the corner. It's not a round curve. There's a ghost there. But that would freak me out so much because she would just sit in the living room and look at the corner of the wall and just bark and bark and bark. And
It might have been
there
a
was
rodent in the wall.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Because my
I
cat's
think
done
it
that
was a
before.
ghost.
Like,
I think if it was a rodent, she would have been over there sniffing around because she usually did stuff like that. But I don't know. Could have been. I don't know. There definitely was stuff in my house though when I first bought it though, because that wasn't the only thing that like happened. But yeah, so I think dogs pick up. I've heard that with a lot of stuff though. Dogs can pick up on spiritual stuff like that. I've heard some of them can even pick up on like uh illnesses, but I don't know if it's necessarily illnesses or maybe that's related to spiritual stuff as well. If it's like certain illnesses that are more spiritual, but I don't know.
you know, I just had a realization, and it's something I need to be honest with myself with here, is that I think most of the time it's not really the dogs I have to take issue with. A lot of times it's the owners, right? It's the people who own the dogs. Because I had some bad experiences when I lived in Fall River, which is where Emerald Lagazzi's from, in case you're wondering. You know, bam, the guy, the cook guy.
I still don't know.
You guys don't know Emerald
Do it
Lagazzi?
again.
You did
Do it
that
again.
cool hand thing.
Bam.
It's still not
You
coming.
guys don't
Almost
know-
got it. One more time.
Wait.
One more time.
Yeah, maybe one or two.
Bam,
Yeah.
bam.
Oh,
I don't know.
I know who you're talking about. I get
Emerald
it.
Lagazzi.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
That guy with the hand.
Okay. The guy with the spices. Well, anyway, he's Portuguese. There's a lot of Portuguese people in Fall River. So Fall River, right outside of Providence. So anyway, yes, we lived in this crappy apartment, and the reason we ended up with it is because we had a cat. Actually, when we left our first apartment, we couldn't find one in our current town where that was cheap enough and that housed cats. So then we found this one, and it appeared to be nice, but there was a lot of sinister stuff going on. And the insides is, first of all, it's a really old building, a lot of structural issues, a lot of rodent issues and ant issues. Like we moved in like early spring, so like It was late, midish, early spring, and so it was still cold out, and we didn't have any rodents or anything in there. But then summertime came and just everything went downhill. We only lived there for about 5 months because the last month we were there, it was infested with fleas from because they had tons of dogs in the apartment
Oh.
building. So it got into our room, and the cat got fleas on her, and
Oh,
she was infested. It was awful. It was horrible. It was one of like
yeah, that's
the worst trying times of my life because we had a kid too. It was when Brooklyn was not even one. So
rough.
yeah. So anyway, the dogs would pee in the elevator. They'd poop everywhere outside. They'd never clean it up. There's no accountability. It was just like really just a rough experience. And then like dogs just do stupid stuff like eat baby diapers. Like why the heck are you eating baby diapers and just like make a mess everywhere? And you know, Luke, you have a kid. The baby diaper is full of like this gelatinous stuff that like turns it just explodes. If you rip it open, it just explodes into little gel dots everywhere, and it's impossible to clean up. And my wife's parents' stupid dog would like get into the trash and take out the baby diapers and just rip it, and it would spill everywhere like the little uh water absorbent thing. So I just hated dogs so much hatred. And it was really a time where like I'm not a hateful person, but I had a lot of hatred for dogs in that period of time, and I think a lot of it had to do with the situation going on. I need to be honest, and yeah, my experiences at the time. Also, the other thing with dogs is they tend to smell bad. Why do they smell bad? I feel like they always smell bad. I've never found a good smelling dog. Maybe my sister's dog is smells pretty good. Her two dogs, but they always have this weird like wet dog smell just in the background, and then they make the room smell weird. And then they do these farts that stink.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't know. There's a lot of
Do
problems
these
I have with
farts
dogs.
that stink. My dog did fart. Yeah, yeah. She did.
Verona was a very gassy dog.
She would. She would. Especially when she'd go up the stairs. Sometimes she just.
Like shifted her hips a certain way. Let one out.
Oh yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that's fair.
I
They
guess my
do. They
point is
do
like
eat weird stuff.
cats tend to be kind of more libertarian spirit, or more free will. I'm my own person. They kind of stand up to the man in that way, where they kind of just ignore the man in a lot of ways, do whatever the heck they want. Where dogs are more like loyal sheep in the system, and but a lot of the problem is dogs owners. So then we have this issue of classism, I think, that arises between dogs and cats. Um, Cats are kind of, I think, bourgeoisie, and dogs are the sheep that run the factories and whatnot. Because what do cats do? They live in your house for free, and they eat your food for free, and they do nothing for you. They basically, the cat owns the house, go wherever the heck they want, any crevice or corner, it's all theirs, and they're running the roost. Whereas dogs are just like your slave. They'll do whatever the heck you want them to most of the time until they like go
It's called
crazy and
loyalty.
maul a kid.
It's called loyalty.
Yeah, you might be right. You might be right. Yeah. So
Nah, I don't know.
maybe I'm thinking like the cats in some ways are a subversive force in society, sticking it to the man, whereas dogs are continuing the rat race. They're continuing to spin the gears of the system. They're not raging against the machine. So I guess that's my spiel. The socio geopolitical, I don't know what you call that, sociology maybe, sociological side of cats and dogs, analogy, metaphor,
I liked it.
personality,
It's
temperament.
good.
I just I hold the opinion that cats are tripping 24/7. Like they're in an altered state of consciousness. Well, I mean, they're a different species, but like even within their cat consciousness, it would be reminiscent to or akin to like what a psychedelic trip would be for a human, or like maybe they're closer to the unconscious or something.
could see that. You convinced me.
Why do you say
I mean,
that?
cats.
They're weird, man. My mom's cat is just weird. 1 second she'll just be like super nice, come up, and then the next second you just watch her eyes, and all of a sudden they all go black, and you're just like, oh my god, she's gonna do something crazy all of a sudden, and
so
then
do
she
you thi-
does. And
So
you're
do
like,
you
what?
think that cat is closer to the unconscious and knows something that you don't, or is experiencing
Absolutely.
something that you can never, or do you think it's random?
Well, I don't know. I can only speak anecdotally and guess here. I'm
Of
speculating.
course.
But
I don't.
I know
What-
you want a scientific. Whoa. Yeah, I think so. Watching my cat Bones, which has been the best cat I've ever had. She's mostly outdoors, but never strays outside of the yard really. Like she'll take a few adventures here and there, but when you I think it's when you spay or neuter a cat early enough, they actually don't roam nearly as far.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We did everything right with this cat. It's just I love cats, and I've really never had a bad cat except for one that we adopted, basically rescued because a person didn't want it anymore, and that cat was named Frankie. And that cat was vindictive and pissed on a pile of laundry that I brought upstairs. Like no sooner after I turned around and turned back, the cat was staring at me on top of that pile of laundry. And at that moment, it was done. Like I'm bringing this cat, and I'm committing this cat to the asylum or something. They actually did a psychological evaluation on the cat at the Humane Society, and they deemed the cat ill-suited for a home.
Interesting.
So no wonder this person needed me to rescue it, because if this was the behavior the cat was exhibiting for the previous owner, it's like, oh my gosh, like, yeah. So anyways, I don't know how I got on that, but my current cat, she sees things that I mean, it just seems clear to me that she sees things that I don't see, and is interacting with the world differently. And I wish I had like a better way of saying it, because it's really not. I'm not necessarily noticing like. I think she's just in tune with potentially like even like elemental beings or like nature spirits that I'm not into or something.
Oh, heat.
What's that?
Yeah. Oh, I have to go eat.
Oh, okay. Thanks for hopping on here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Mhm.
Everyone make blackout poetry out of stuff that you're intimidated of.
Okay,
It's a really good idea.
What's blackout
Uh,
poetry?
that's what I had to ask too. Could you explain? It looked like kind of like reverse highlighting or something. Right?
It's like anti-literature. You cross out all the stuff you don't like.
Oh yes, that's fun.
Yeah.
You're
Never done
also
it, but it looks fun.
creating. You're selecting basically what could be a coherent set of lines from like you are creating something coherent out of it. And
Yeah.
what Abigail was doing is actually rerouting the theology that was like detrimental to her psyche at an early age into something beautiful through that process.
So Luke, I want to keep grilling you on cats being in touch with nature spirits, because I completely agree. But you're doing a good job at. Do you think it's just cats, or do you think it's all animals? Because I was, as you were talking about that, because there's definitely like a rhythm and a heartbeat to the earth and the way that animals interact. And the way that frogs know to bury themselves before a rainstorm, days before a big one, and birds know to fly south, right? Like, what's that about? What do you think that is?
Yeah. Like barnyard animals getting all in the only way we know is because we've domesticated these animals, but we brought them in, but they still have these like instincts, and like barnyard animals going crazy before a storm or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. I knew one story. I don't know it well enough to like share in detail, but basically this guy's dog was being super weird the whole evening before he had a heart attack and died. And people recognized that the dog was acting unusually strange. Stuff like that. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Yeah.
Check this cat out. Oh yeah, she's a beaut, a real beaut.
What's her name?
Her name is Pepper. Technically, her legal name is Pepper. Look
Pepper.
at how chill she is, though.
So Luke, I also got to say,
What?
a nickname of mine when I was really little was actually Bones as well. So you're doing good on the cat naming.
That's a cool nickname.
It is. I know. I kind of want
That's
to
a
bring it
really good nickname. I'll call you Bones.
back. Bones. I don't think I'm skinny
Her name's
enough.
Pepper,
still.
but I just call her Kitty. I say, Kitty, Kitty,
Kitty.
no.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
in
okay.
in
I know-
Fantasties it mentioned that as well, but the fairies picking the sparks out of the cat's back. On certain
Yeah,
days or something
interacting
like
with it, making it jump, right?
that. Yeah, because those times like when the cat just senses something you don't sense and it just darts off, and it's like just that. My mom's cat does that. Like you're just sitting there and all of a sudden she's just running around the room and you're like, what the heck is happening? It's the fairies
Or
pulling the
after
sparks
they-
out of it.
After they poop, a lot of times after they poop, they just like bolt away. You ever
Maybe
heard of
it's
that?
fairies.
It's like poop scares that they have. Like
I gotta be
can't-
honest, I do the same thing.
Poop
you run
scares.
away as fast as you can.
Poop scares.
No, Kitty, no,
I'm-
stay with me, no.
John, I'm still thinking about your question because
Yeah, what do you think? I'm just bouncing it off of you.
yeah. I don't know. And even as I'm sitting here thinking about it, it's just like, and I think it's because I have trouble discerning it doesn't feel like I'm living in that that like submerged reality where I'm experiencing those things, so I can only like speculate. There's times where maybe I am, but it's certainly clear. Yeah, like I don't know, it's certainly clear to me that like okay, so here's a weird one too. Like I became obsessed with nuthatches. So we've got like the white-breasted nuthatch and the red-breasted nuthatch here.
Huh.
So last winter I was like super into them and watching them all the time, binoculars out, yada yada. And then my cat would occasionally like mix a sparrow here and there, but it was always sparrows, right? And then like one day she killed this nuthatch, this beautiful tiny red-breasted nuthatch, and brought it to the sliding glass door, which is right next to me, and laid it there. And at first I was like really upset. It's like why would you kill? This is horrible. Like of all the birds that you kill, like in domestic house cats are like the number one cause of culling bird populations in the United States, or I think it's even in the Western world or whatever across the world globe. I don't know, but there's a reason why I'm saying this. She brought that nuthatch to the door, and I was able to pick it up in my hand and like observe this nuthatch in like at at like this proximity that I otherwise would never have experienced. And it was like she knew about my obsession, I
Mm.
feel like, with nuthatches and brought me one. And you could toss that away with coincidence because like, you know, as my obsession with nuthatches grew, I researched the correct suet to put outside so that I could attract more nuthatches, and so the population of nuthatches increased, and so then there was a greater likelihood that she was going to kill one eventually. But like everything about it just seemed, you know, kind of
Yeah.
eerie and uncanny, and yeah, what was otherwise kind of morbid was also just like my morbid curiosity. Like I am holding this dead bird, but it was still just like super fascinating. And then I ended up like burying it in the backyard.
Did the significance of that hit you at the time, or was it not until later?
It was not until like thinking about it in retrospect.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So yeah. What else though? Like that, I feel like I can only talk about it in like that anecdotal way, or like through the experience of, or perhaps a story, because I don't know how to like analyze it like really.
Jason, you got anything?
Well, I was gonna ask, but I don't know if it's directly related or not. Would you say that the cat is almost having a cat? I was about to say is kind of like an extension of yourself, but that's kind of the wrong way to put it, I guess. Um, I don't know. Maybe that's not the wrong way to put it. Would you say like when C.S. Lewis, when he lost his wife, he said the loss of a loved one is like an amputation. Would you say like something like that? Like having this relationship with the cat, you're so like intricately connected that somehow, whatever, telepathically, subconsciously, you're picking up on, it brought you this bird or something, but you had such a strong bond with the cat that it was kind of almost like an extension of yourself.
Oh
I
my
don't know if
God.
that's the right way to say it.
Well, I don't know if you're asking me, but I do have another story I could share where, when I was out in Spokane, really depressed. I remember watching all the Skins, like Skins UK. Do you remember that show? You guys remember that show?
No,
Nope.
Skins? Okay.
I
What
feel like
was
I
it?
Like
should.
it's
I feel like I should too.
teen drama. It's like sex, drugs, like kind of like grunge 90s, but like fast forwarded to
How did
the
I miss this?
dude, it's actually really good. You'd
I've
probably
never
love
even heard of it. Yeah.
Where was it on? MTV?
Skins UK.
It's got
Oh,
Dev
UK.
Patel in it. He was the
Yeah.
Green Knight.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
But my cat Topher, Will Topher, he fluffed out really nice, beautiful cat. Reminds me a lot of Bones. Um, and then that cat, like it was so weird. Like I would just take him and like sit him next to me on the couch, and he would literally have like his legs out on the couch like the human, and just kind of like have his paws sitting there. And he'd like rest his back on the back of the couch, and he'd watch an entire episodes as I'm like binging this TV show with me. Like it
Crazy.
was like my companion.
Yeah.
Like just he was there with me in a way that like no human was. Like I did have a good friend, Wes Marvin, and he was like uh he was my roommate for a short period of time. He was one of the people that really helped me out during that time. Was just the kind of person that was just there, didn't need to necessarily like, hey, let's go do something. No, he's like, yeah, let's binge watch 8 hours of the show, you know.
Yeah.
So, do you think that if that cat had died, do you think you would have felt like you were losing an appendage that is, oh gosh, I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this, separate from you? Or do you think that cat for you felt like an appendage because it was where you placed a lot of, you said you were very depressed and it would just sit there with you. It was a part of you. It was the part of you that could be vulnerable and sad and sit there and watch TV. If that cat died,
Yeah.
would you feel like you're losing that part of you, kind of like that outlet, or like a separate entity? Does that make sense? Was it
Yeah.
more to you than a vessel of a way to kind of superimpose the way that you thought about life? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so.
no, I
I would
think
think it's
it does. I'm
both, right?
probably having trouble maybe understanding it entirely, but like, because I don't think I think there was a way in which that cat was very much a separate entity from me, but
Yeah.
there was a way in which that cat was like the way it made me feel and the way it comforted me. It was like it was so it was I was attached to it and it seemed attached to me,
Yeah.
and because of like this intimacy that we shared on a level that
Yeah.
was like tacit, there was no articulation between. It's not like we were
Yeah.
having like a discourse together, it
Right.
was like it was completely subconscious, or no,
Right.
maybe or unconscious, I don't know.
I know what you
Precon-
mean.
yeah.
Yeah, you talk to him. Yep. That's why I'm saying the purest language is humility. Because if you got that, you can even talk to animals. You can talk to anything. You can talk to trees. You can talk to whatever you want. If you're just gonna be humble enough to listen, you can talk to anything.
So have you experienced this with your raccoon, Jason?
I haven't seen that raccoon in a while. What do you mean though? Like a connection?
Well, I even listened to your conversation with is her name Wei?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was interesting to hear you talk about animals in general, and just that connection that I suppose it takes a certain kind of, I don't want to say effort, but openness to receive, and then all of a sudden maybe these encounters that otherwise you would never experience start taking place in your life, like relationship with the raccoons developed, or you, yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird. Yeah, that's really strange. That's a good question. Yeah, man, it would be great to fire up another conversation with her at some point and ask her more about it. Because when I was talking with her, she was talking about the words she used were very like religious words, but she's talking about like setting out offerings for the animals. She would call them
Hmm.
offerings, and it was basically just putting out food for the woodland critters to come and eat and stuff. Um, but it is an offering. Like it's your bread, it's your food, and you're giving it to like Mother Nature or Mother Nature's children in a way. And then that's opening up more space for you to commune with nature and with Mother Nature. But even at like, I don't think I've gotten in a different space, but there was like around that time. It was around the same time with the raccoon and everything. And I remember even myself, like just feeding the raccoon every night. You experience more of the only way to describe it is maybe like a shalom with just nature in general. And then you're
Mm.
out, and then the trees are there's just like a peace that you never noticed before. And that's when I was kind of in the signal chat. I was mentioning your garden, and I was like, it's a green chapel. And because like there'll be times where I'm out walking and I'm like, oh, this is church. Like this is the most holy ground I could be standing on right now.
Yeah.
And it's literally like being in the presence of angels. It's really, really strange. And the veil gets super thin, like you were talking about. And I remember there was times where I'd be out walking, and it was during that time with the raccoon stuff. But there were multiple things that would happen. I'd just be out, and I don't want to sound too mystical. Like it wasn't like strange, but I remember one time I was walking and this deer was just like right off the trail, and it just stopped and just stood there and looked at me and just watched me as I walked by. Like didn't even try to run away. It was the weirdest thing. And I was probably like 50 feet from it, maybe. And just like as I just kept walking by, it just watched me the whole time. I'm like, and I like waved at it. Like, what is happening right now? Like, it was just really weird. Like that. I mean, you wouldn't say like, oh, this deer sensed that I didn't want to hurt it. It was just like, it was this weird interconnectedness with like nature or something. It's very, very odd. And Wake would probably know more about it because I think she actually does it more. And it's
Yeah.
it sounds very pagan and very strange, and it probably is pagan, but I'm like, I don't care. I freaking love it. It's great. But yeah, there was just a lot of, it was definitely for like a few months. And I mean, I don't think it's like changed because I haven't changed like at all. Like, I mean, it's not like, but I mean, those things haven't happened as much. I guess you could maybe even call them synchronicities or something. But I mean, if you're like the type of person who's gonna like just intentionally litter and things like that, and just like, then I think your interconnectedness with nature around you wouldn't be
Yeah.
there. And it's probably, I mean, it's probably a two-way. I don't know how it works, but obviously if you have a disregard, I shouldn't say disdain, I was about to say disdain, but a disregard for things like that, then you're just yourself isn't going to be conscious aware. So you're not going to be drawing out, and it's not going to be calling you. Like, I really think
Yeah.
there's kind of a weird communion going on and things like that. But yeah, I don't know.
You know how Jesus would spend a lot of time in solitude in nature, out in the wilderness, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to wonder what was he doing out in the wilderness. I don't think he was just sitting there meditating and praying with his eyes closed.
Yeah.
I think he was probably walking around nature, probably looking at the beautiful creation he made. He's like, oh yeah, I remember making that. Oh yeah, I remember how I made it. Maybe.
Yeah.
And just like probably just absorbing the beauty. There's something really healing and powerful and mystical about just beauty. And you
Yeah.
have that concept of the good, the beautiful, the true. It's something transcendent. Beauty is transcendent. It's like it is in the eye of the beholder in a lot of ways too. Like one thing can be beautiful to one person and not to another. There's something individualized to it. But it was funny. I was scrolling through and came across Psalm 7, and it kind of reminded me of what you were saying, John. Oh my Lord. Oh Lord, my God, in you do I take refuge. Save you from all my pursuers, and deliver me, lest like a lion they tear my soul apart and rending it in pieces with none to deliver.
With all the kitten pieces.
All the kittens.
Yeah, no, there's a
Kitten
verse in
pieces.
gosh, what verse is it? There's another verse where it talks about taking a lamb from a lion. It says you walk away with just like a piece of an ear or something like that. I can't remember where it is. Yeah.
Yeah, they're ferocious. Don't mess with cats.
Yeah. But there's a you've said you've had those experiences, right, John? Of just like that weird shalom state or something.
Oh yeah, man, where the veil gets super thin.
Yeah.
I'll share a little bit about that. Then I gotta go. I have an early morning tomorrow. It's
Alright, man.
10:30.
Yeah. I
Um,
probably can't hang out too much longer.
I don't know,
either,
man. There's definitely something there, and I'd love to talk about it more. I was reading about the American Indians actually. This was a couple months ago, but I found it interesting that like the civilizations that thrived all throughout human history were the ones that took the approach of like living in shalom with the land instead of trying to conquer it. And if you met, I'm big into hiking and camping and stuff, and there's really like two philosophies people tend to take when they're outside for long amounts of time. Like Peter, you were saying, I wonder what Jesus did. I'm sure he was, at peace with the creation, because the two philosophies are either nature is wild and dangerous, and I have to control it so that it doesn't hurt me, or I have to roll with the punches and be nice to it and it will give back to me. Those are kind of the two approaches I see often. And I think it's in the latter where I've had those weird, maybe paganistic, it's not really paganistic, but it's like a Zen-like experience where it's like in that moment, even the rocks will cry out to God. And it's like everywhere you look, you see everything pointing to
Yeah.
the top.
Yeah.
And
Psalm
those are the
19.
moments when I'm the most
right?
in awe. Psalm 19, Psalm 8. who am I that you created me and you put the stars in a place. Like those moments where those words actually really sink in
Yeah.
are some of the best. So yeah, I've definitely had those experiences. But with that, I want to tap out and go to bed. Good night, guys.
Peace, brother.
Nice
Thank you for
closing
sharing.
statement. See ya.
Thank you.
See you, man. Bye, doctor. Oh. Oh.
Is this the
Well,
closing?
yeah, we
Oh,
should
yeah.
play play a closing song, and then we'll go.
All right, I can play you a
It's
song.
getting late anyway.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do you want to hear?
I want.
Oh, I think I have some really. What did you say, Luke?
I want that. I
Oh,
want
no.
that one about that one that sounded like Justin Timberlake. That I'm
The
wiggling
fire
over
one?
here.
Fire?
No, it was like your old experimental stuff.
Oh. Oh, I'm a real naughty hottie.
But I don't think you
I'm
can
a
do that
real
on an
naughty
acoustic.
hottie.
Yeah,
My voice isn't this high. I hear my
Yeah.
child screaming upstairs, unfortunately, but I can come back momentarily after I assess the situation.
yeah.
Okay.
Keep,
Okay.
keep the
Good luck with
conversation.
that. All right. We'll wait for you. For him to play his
I'll,
guitar.
Man, there's just so many stories.
Yeah, we should. I
Oh.
like this. I like just you sharing stories back and forth. I like hearing all yours too. We've got a
Yeah.
lot of them. You want to share another one before we go?
Well, I was just thinking about in high school, I had a best friend named Caleb, and he's still my best friend. He was the best man at my wedding. He lives up in Alaska now. But we started this like club, right? And it was called Los Lobos, and we we all got like wolf tattoos on our bodies. Like here's mine. Like
Nice.
Caleb has a matching one on his pec, and then there was like 6 other members, and they all got tattoos. So like that was the initiation.
So
But
pause
I
real
mean,
quick. Have you heard the song Blitzen Trapper called Fur? I'll have to send
by
it to you if you
Blitzen
have it.
Trap?
By Blitzen Trapper.
No,
Oh, I'm gonna send
I
it to you.
don't.
You'll dig it if you got a wolf tattoo. My sister has a wolf tattoo because of this song. It's like her favorite
No.
song. Yeah, Natalie. Hey,
Yeah.
I've talked to her before. Anyway, sorry. Go
I
ahead.
I was actually, I think they were at Lollapalooza in 2010 when I was there, so I think I caught a couple songs, but I might not be. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's funny. Uh, the
Sorry, didn't mean to
no,
interrupt you.
no, I was trying to think like because Caleb he wrote up an entire constitution because it was just like this.
What?
It was a brotherhood, and he started developing a language, like we a Saint Wallo. I can't. I still have it in my head because it was like the mantra for the whole group, and we had like all these plans of like eventually living together and like having property and building a long lodge and all this stuff. And like there was a serious authenticity to it, but there was a few like tenets, like so we did this thing called natural graffiti. Um, and natural graffiti could be as simple as like building a bridge over a creek, or we there's this one area in the woods where we just like here we are like 17 18 19, but we are not, no, it's younger than that, 16 17 18 probably, maybe it's probably formed, so this was like a good 3 or 4 year period before it just kind of devolved. But we had forts all around, like different areas where we had
That's
forts, and so you could go like hike out into this specific area, and we'd have a fort out there,
fun.
have a fort over here. Um,
The things you do when you're
wrapping,
sober.
yeah,
I'm just-
absolutely. And then we'd wrap vines around a tree and make like a vine wall,
That's
and
fun.
like, yeah, there's just like, and we called that natural graffiti. So it was like, and honestly, we thought we were like vigilantes because of this. Like, we're not going out and doing real graffiti. We're gonna do natural graffiti, or whatever.
Nice. That's
And I don't know why I'm
so
telling you all
great.
this, but yeah, it was just it was very much this like connected to the earth, like, I don't know, sort of thing. But like there was a lot of like I don't even know how to explain it, but like, you know, I remember having my first beer in uh this cave that we built. So like it had these it was called the man cave. Um and we had like boards on top, like 3/4 inch plywood, but like this thing was like probably 8 feet deep, 8 by 8 by 6 or so. And
Yeah.
so like you could fit 3 or 4 people down in there, and uh we'd go down in there and we'd smoke. This sounds crazy, but we'd like harvest yarrow, and then we'd take a bunch of like other herbs and make our own, like, kinnikinnick is like a traditional blend of tobacco and other herbs for
What is
uh
yarrow?
yarrows. It's it's a flower, and I can't remember the flower formation that it forms, but it's like a ton of little microflowers. It's kind of like Queen Anne's lace, or
Okay.
um,
What did you use it for?
we dry it out and then we'd smoke it
Is it like
um,
do you get high or
in a pipe. No, no, not at all. It was just
just
like,
for fun?
yeah, it was like smoking herbs, and
Oh, okay.
in it, instead of like tobacco, or like
Yeah.
we'd mix it with tobacco or something like that, but instead of
Nice.
it just like smoking
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I don't know. And then he had a mouse, like a pet mouse down there. I don't even know, like, what did we
That's
do?
fun.
What did we talk
That's so
about?
fun.
What did we I don't even remember like
Man,
why this occurred, but it did. And
that's just what you do, man. I miss those times. I'm getting some nostalgia.
yeah. Did you have
But
a
I didn't have
you
like a big group of friends. I was homeschooled most of my life, up until high school. Then, um, around high school, I think my best friend I used to have before that moved away to Delaware, and so it was kind of I don't remember really having a lot of people I hung out with a whole lot. And then when I did, it was kind of at that point, I think, kind of playing video games or something like that. But before that, I mean, I remember me and my friend Chris. Well, I mean, we're still kind of friends now. He lives far away though, so I don't talk to him very much anymore. But we would spend all day like just go to a creek and just hang out at like down at the creek, and I could still do that. Like I literally could. If I was around a creek, I could sit there and look for crawdads all day long. Like that's what we would
dude?
do, and we'd catch them. We'd have action figures. We'd lose all our action figures in the creek, and it was so much. I mean, see a snake, you try to grab it. It's just like I don't know. It's so much
Yes,
fun.
dude.
Yeah, yeah.
We would go to we had this place called the Dam, and it had this like huge spray painted graffiti piece that said locals only. And I remember going there as like a young person and being terrified. But later it became like a place that we became those locals. And it was like we that little area was deep, and it was loaded with creek chubs. And so we'd go down there and we just
Wait,
catch
what is
creek
this?
chubs.
A creek?
Yeah, it's a creek, and it was loaded with creek chubs, and we'd
What's a
like,
creek chub though? I don't know.
oh, it's a fish.
Oh, okay.
So that's about yay long, and uh,
I've never heard that
we'd
term.
like we'd gut chop the head off and gut them. We'd catch like 30, 40 of them, like
Yeah,
whatever, and we'd bring them back, and we'd like smoke them
that's
over a
fun.
fire,
That's fun.
and then we just eat
Nice.
them.
That's
And
so cool.
it was just shit like that, and
Yeah, yeah. That's fun.
salmon would
Yeah.
come into that creek, and we just like try to catch them with our bare hands.
What?
Like I remember I caught the same salmon. I just kept releasing it, and then I'd recatch it, and then I'd release, and it's just like it was already like half dead anyways. But it's like, why did I? But it was so much fun. It was like
Yeah, yeah. I
torturing
love
that
that
poor.
stuff. Yeah, that was like my childhood too. It was just all outside, just catching bugs, catching lizards. When I lived in Florida, we catch a lot of lizards all the time too. And yeah, it was fun. I don't even know if I could do that now. They're so quick. I'm like, how did I catch these things when I was little? You just grab them and Yeah, I don't know.
Quick reflexes.
Yeah, I remember I had a pet alligator for a short little while, and then my dad had to go release it because it was illegal. Yeah, it was a baby
boy.
one because when we lived in Florida, my grandmother's. I kind of grew up around my cousins and stuff, and so my grandmother's house, she lived on the lake house though, and so there was always gators in the water, but we'd swim anyway. Like you just don't think about it when you're there. And then one time we went out in the canoe. It was me and my dad and my oldest sister, and my dad's freaking nuts. He's just paddling the boat, and so he sees a gator's nest, and so he just rams the canoe up near it, and they just went flying everywhere. And so he just grabbed some and put them in a bucket. I probably shouldn't be saying this now that I'm thinking about it. And then we went and released them later, but I don't think there was, because the lake where it was and there were houses around it. I don't think once the gators got so big, I think they would come and try to get them out anyway. So I don't know if the mom was even there. I'm not sure, but I don't know. All right, you gonna close us out with a song, I guess? Let's hear it.
And no sunshine when she's gone. It's not warm when she's away. And no sunshine when she's gone. And she's always gone too long. Anytime she goes away. Yeah. Good old Will Withers.
That's
Bill
good.
Withers. I'll play you some original
Is that
thing. An original thing. What are you saying, Luke?
Never mind. I was gonna say, do you guys remember that place in the Bible where Samson tied the tails of 300 foxes together and lit them on fire?
Yeah. Yeah.
What
pretty
was that
badass.
about?
There's a lot of animal stories in the Bible, aren't there?
There
You
really
got the
is.
bears.
Isn't there Me
The bears got-
Without You song about that?
Yeah.
Or no?
The
Catch
bears,
the foxes
Harry.
in the vineyard.
Yeah,
Little
there is.
foxes. Oh, the Soviet mentions that part. Catch first the foxes in the vineyard. The little foxes. The song is called The Soviet, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
It's all about. I mean, Aaron Weiss was very hard on himself when it came to adultery and pornography and lust and whatnot. He was very self-deprecating in those songs. So to him, the foxes were like his lust for this girl. Catch the foxes in the vineyard before they spoil it. I
Yeah.
think it's what it is. Like the sin. They represent sin.
Yeah.
Very interesting. But yeah, I got some really cool songs that I'm excited. I'm gonna be recording over the next year or so. Hopefully, I want to be able to release them in the next fall. So we'll see. I'm thinking about doing some sort of crowdfunding campaign for that. But anyway, I think I can think of a song that I think you guys will really like. It's kind of based loosely off of Job a little bit. There's some Job stuff in there. I don't know if you guys. I mean, oh, you guys both have ear things in, so you don't have to worry about the echo thing because that can be an issue. In the recording wise, but yeah, this song is called "Fool." Well, for the working title for now is called "Foolish Son."
All right.
But it's basically about faith and doubt, and then the first verse is man or me, or it's a skeptic, and the second voice is God. You'll hear that, but it's kind of like how God comes out of the whirlwind and responds to Job and is like, "Who are you? Where were you when I made the foundations of the earth? Can you tell me are you the one who places the boundaries of the sea, or whatever? Do you have the storehouses of snow and et cetera, all that stuff?" And Job's just like, "I'm a dead man, kill me." And he's like, "Nah, man, I'm gonna bless you." I don't understand that story. Well, it's really about Jesus. He's the suffering servant. He's the Job. That's what I've heard. That kind of blew my mind. There's a really cool Tim Mackey sermon that I heard Tim Mackey's the guy from the Bible Project.
Hmm.
He has some really great sermons, and one of them was about Job and how it's tied into the whole concept of the Emmaus way of reading scripture, right? That Jesus unveiled their minds so that they could understand what the whole scripture was about. He's like, by the way, the scripture's always been about me. He's like, yeah, everything you've read, it's about me. And they're just like, what? So, I mean, if we have to take that lens and towards scripture, then how is Job about Jesus? Well, he's the suffering servant, and his suffering leads to the blessing of many people. So that's anyway, this thing's called Foolish Son. If you're who you say you are, then where are you now? Look among the woodlands, no creature can be found that matches your description. You should be tall, taller than the mountains. Should be wide, wider than the oceans. Should be vast, I cannot explain it. With long arms and the universe in his hands, but I can't see it anywhere. Pain still reigns here. We despair if your love is true. It's crushed my soul to find you like I'm chasing after the wind. Ooh. Were you there when I laid the foundations of the earth? When I gave the ocean's borders and the thunder birth, you weren't even breathing. You were dust, and from the dust you came, and I breathed life. The ordinary plane of existence cannot contain the breadth and width and height of my vast power. But you're not listening, foolish son. You're not patient. You're on the run. If you open up, I can give you wisdom like a father gives gifts, like a mother gives life. Freedom is righteous, the gift is love. Freedom is righteous, the gift is love. Freedom is righteous, the gift is love. Freedom is righteous, the gift is love.
That's good, man. That's good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you kindly.
All right.
I knew you'd like that one.
Here. Should I end it here? Closing song.
Stranded here?
All right. You guys have a good night. Thanks for doing this. Get some sleep.
What a trip.
We'll have to give more
Cats,
stories.
dogs, nature. Peace, chidlins.